Hey guys, happy Friday. It's time for a Down to the Wire on the Vegas Insider Network presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Joe Madden. It's Friday. We got a great show ahead of us, you guys. You want to stay tuned. Bringing in William Hill as well as Greg Peterson, both from Veasan. We're going to be breaking down some games on the Diamond tonight as well as NFL Sunday games that we're looking ahead at. It's going to be fun. So let's jump straight into everything today. I've got a best bet for you on the Diamonds. This game is kicking off shortly here, you guys. We got the Boston Red Sox taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, this is an interesting game here. Toronto coming in as the favorite at home. I'm leaning towards Toronto to have a big day. Now, we've got two great pitchers up to start. Nick Pivetta coming in here for the Boston Red Sox. Now, overall on the season, he has a 4.48 ERA, but when we look at him in his last three starts, he's been hit, and he's been hit hard. His ERA is 6.46 in those last three. Toronto coming in here, inconsistent offensively, just really making us shake our heads. But in this one, I think they'll hit off of Pivetta. I'm going to take their team total over 4.5. We see the Toronto Blue Jays averaging 4.7 runs per game. They're allowing that 4.3. We have a Boston Red Sox team that is averaging 4.6 and allowing 4.8. The last time these two matched up was back in August of this year, and Toronto won it 6-5. I'm really seeing a similar game here, except I'm not like out of Toronto, not out of the Boston Red Sox. I think the Boston Red Sox will struggle to hit off of Alek Manoah. Alek Manoah has been lights out. He's got a 2.31 ERA on the season, 1.37 in his last three. So with how things are looking, I was leaning towards that over for the full game, but I really don't see Boston being able to get these hits. So give me the Toronto Blue Jays team total over 4.5. You guys go over to BetMGM to grab that. It's minus 110 over there. I think it's a stellar way to take this game. But you guys, I want to talk to you quickly before we bring in William Hill about the Vegas Insider app. Because if you love what we do here on the show, you're going to absolutely love the app. And you want to check it out at the App Store. We've got up-to-date, easy-to-navigate odds in every major sports. We have all the latest shows, best bet videos, and podcasts all in that one spot. Props, trends, futures, news, all for free on the Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on Apple and Android. Bet better with Vegas Insider app. Okay, it's time to bring in a William Hill to the show. William, how's it going today?
Joe, always good to be on with you. It's always fun to talk with you. And every time I come across your Twitter feed, you always have a cold beer or a nice glass of wine. And I always say to myself, if Joe's having one, I'm having one. So you've become really a bad influence on me, but it's always great to talk to you. How's it going?
William, I think you are confusing my cup of coffee with a cold beer or a glass of wine and just justifying the fact that you're having one.
It could be it. You know what? It could be it. It's funny. We wait so long for football season to get here. We count down the weeks, the days. You look up, we're already into week 4. It's just it takes so long to get here, and it goes by so quickly.
It absolutely does. I had a show on Wednesday night, and one of my guests said, after this week, we are 22% into the NFL. That is a depressing number right there. It's going way too fast.
Yeah, and then you mix in the NBA, the NHL preseason started. The winter sports are already starting. It seems so early because it's the first time since 2019 that we're sort of back on schedule after the pandemic where, these seasons start late September, early October. It's a lot at once. Postseason baseball, NFL, and then, of course, the winter sports starting. So it's and then college football and college basketball not too far down the road. So it's certainly a lot going on at once, but it's a fun time of year.
Absolutely. It kind of feels like Christmas, doesn't it, with everything coming back? It does. Now, are you a big hockey guy, William?
No, I mean, I love it in the playoffs. There's nothing like playoff hockey, game 7s, overtime. It's so intense. I kind of, I pick my spots in the regular season. I'll check out, your shows, other people's picks that I sort of tail, but I don't really originate in terms of the NHL, especially, during the regular season.
And how about basketball?
Oh, I love basketball, college basketball, NBA. Played a bunch of season win totals. Again, with the regular season, it's so night to night. It's hard. You're doing football, baseball, basketball. There's only so many hours in a day. You sort of have to pick what you're good at and just go from there. So once baseball clears up, once the NFL season becomes, we get to the postseason and there's fewer games, then you can focus more on NBA. I do have some good NBA futures, win totals, things like that I like. It's really hard to do all four at once.
It is absolutely hard, but I know that you crush it doing it. So keep up the great work. We're going to talk some NFL today. I'm excited. What have you thought of the season so far?
A lot of injuries. I can't remember a season where some of these teams, and I think we're going to talk about the Chargers-Texans game in a few minutes. Some of these teams were 3 weeks in, they're already decimated, and it's, you can't make bets without checking the injury report, and all these teams have extensive injuries. You look at the Saints injury report, obviously the Chargers, there's just so many major injuries, and obviously what happened last night with Tua was just awful, really put a damper on the game. That was a tough scene, tough to watch. It put really a dark cloud over the rest of that game. That was a brutal thing to see last night.
Yeah, I'm with you. Really hard to celebrate even any props that hit last night after seeing that. So our thought and prayers do go out to him. It sounds like he did make it back home okay, though. So
yeah, the fingers is what get you. When you start to see the fingers in the hands doing those weird things, it's just sort of a chilling thing. You don't realize, sitting on your couch watching these games, how hard these guys hit every play. They're so big, they're so fast. Sort of amazing more injuries don't occur.
Yeah, we absolutely take it for granted how hard it is for these guys to go through what happens. It's called fencing, I believe. Yeah. When your body does that, it's just awful to see. Let's jump into some more positive stuff. We got lots of games coming up, including a game in London this weekend. You touched slightly on that Chargers game, one that I didn't tell our producers to bring up any lines for. I will bring them up in a second here, but let's just talk injuries for this Chargers team. Herbert isn't healthy right now. And then we look at Slater's out. There's tons of issues for the Chargers here. Can they come off and beat the Texans?
Yeah, might save some time to just name the healthy players because there's fewer of those for the Chargers. It's just name a good player on the Chargers. Chances are he's hurt. You mentioned Herbert, the offensive line, Bosa, Keenan Allen, I think was ruled out. I'm pretty sure he was. And now you're going to ask this team to go on the road, laying 5 points to a Houston team that really ran it down their throat late last season around Christmas and hurt the Chargers' chances to make the playoffs. The Texans won as like 13-point underdogs late in the season. I just don't know how you can ask the Chargers in the shape they're in to go on the road, lay points, lay more than a field goal. I like the Texans here, and I know the Chargers, if you just look at the roster when everybody's healthy, they're as talented as everyone. And it's week 4 now. You can't quite cross them off, but I'd be very concerned here about the Chargers. It's not like baseball, basketball, where you play 82 games or 162 games. And if you have injuries early, you can sort of, hold your own and get your guys back and still have a run. It's a sprint in the NFL. Like we were just talking about, it goes by quickly. And, if you get out to a 1-3, 2-4 start and you have all these injuries, sometimes your season gets off track and it never gets back on track. I'd be very concerned about the Chargers this week. My guess is they would win, but I don't know how you lay any sort of points here. I'll take the Texans plus the 5.
Yeah, I completely agree with you here. After what we saw to Tua brings up a lot of questions on should we be rushing these quarterbacks into games? I know Justin Herbert's injuries are a lot different with them being rib sort of injuries here. But what are your thoughts on this, William? Do you think he's healthy enough to be on this field? Because he definitely didn't look like himself. He's definitely got Slater out, who was a huge amount of protection for him. I worry about his life for the game, for the season, not just for one outing. So what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I was shocked they let him in the game. I know there's a thing with quarterbacks where you're the leader of the team. You want to show toughness. You want to show you can play through pain. But sometimes as a team, as an organization, you have to protect the player from themselves. It's like a pitcher in baseball. They're always going to want to stay in the game. Sometimes you say, you know what, you're done. You're not pitching anymore. Same thing in this situation. I'm shocked he played. I'm shocked they left him in there. I don't know how effective he can be. He looked like he was in a lot of pain. And like you mentioned, you're going to put a gimpy quarterback who is in a lot of pain every time he throws the ball, every time he takes a hit, and put him behind a beat-up offensive line. He might start the game. I don't know that he finishes it on Sunday. That's another reason I like Houston.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would even sprinkle on that money line because if Herbert goes out, I don't think the Chargers get the win there. It's going to be a hard environment to play in Texas. They want that win. They're going to be coming at him hard. And I think it's one of those games where either stay away or go with Texas here in this one.
And I don't know if they'll post a prop, but if they ever put up a Justin Herbert rushing prop, which would seem like free money, when you got broken ribs, I don't know how much you're going to be running the ball. So I would look towards under any Justin Herbert rushing prop. Not sure they'll post one, but if they do, let me know because I'll be all over that.
Yeah, I sure don't know how he's doing what he even did in last week's games. I've had friends with broken ribs, hard to even drive with them, let alone to throw a football. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Let's move on to the next one. 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This should be a really good game, in my opinion. Jaguars surprising a lot of people, sitting 2-1 on the season. The Eagles just dominating 3-0. What do you think here? Can they cover a touchdown in this game?
The Jags are good. I'm a little worried because everybody that you listen to, everybody that reads seems to be on the Jags, and that always sort of makes you nervous when we're all on the same team. But I really like this team. They've got a quarterback. They've got a pass rush. They got some weapons. They got a coach that's won a Super Bowl, been to the playoffs 3 times. And not only that, you got a coach who's familiar with this Philly roster, only a year removed from that team. You know, he was there when Hurts was drafted. He knows a lot of this talent. And plus you got the edge of, look, Philly fired this guy. He won him a Super Bowl, made the playoffs the next 2 years, and then his 4th year, he has a bad year, and they get rid of him. So I'm sure, look, if that was me, if I was Peterson, I'd be up till 3, 4 in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to show you, I'm going to make you regret firing me. So I'm sure there's a little bit of that with Peterson. Again, I really like this Jaguar team. They are the only team in the NFL right now, top 5 in DVOA in offense, top 5 DVOA in defense. This is an impressive team. I think they're going to win that division. You can still get, I think, plus 225. If you look at the Colts, the Titans, they have not been impressive. The Texans aren't going to win that division. The Jags have a good chance to get to 9, 10 plus wins and win the AFC South. I think they're the best team in that division.
Yeah, that payback factor is huge for Peterson here. We know it is big for even teams, but let alone coaching. Great point to make here. I love what we're seeing defensively out of the Jags. Their rush defense is outstanding. Who would have thought 55 yards per game they're only giving up against the rush?
Yeah, and they lost to Washington week 1. They really let that game get away. They led by 8 in the 4th quarter. That's the only thing separating them from being 3-0. This is a really impressive team.
Any thoughts on this total? It's sitting around 45.5. It's a hard total.
Yeah, it's about right to me. About right to me. Philly's had this MO here where they get a huge lead in the first half and they're up by so much that they can just run the ball in the second half, take their foot off the gas. They did it against Minnesota. They did it last week. They did it week 1 against Detroit. Detroit made things interesting. They kind of learned their lesson from that. But Philly's been an impressive team. This was almost the Super Bowl in 2017. Because remember, the Philly obviously went to the Super Bowl and won it. The Jags were up 10 in the AFC title game that season with the ball. So this is sort of the Super Bowl that we never got.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good game. Let's move on to the next one, 1 o'clock Eastern as well on Sunday. We have the New York Jets taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Jets welcoming back Zach Wilson in this game. Steelers without TJ Watt, which I think is a huge blow to their defense. They're not looking the same without him. Where are you going with this one?
Well, we mentioned earlier, you and I both like to enjoy a cold beverage once in a while. This might be a game where you grab a cold beverage because I don't think this is going to be a pretty game. You got Mitch Trubisky at home here laying points. You never feel comfortable laying points with Mitch Trubisky, but I'm going to do it here. I like Pittsburgh. This is just a tough spot for the Jets, for Wilson. He hasn't had any reps. He hasn't had any practice time. Now you're going to throw him into a situation where he's on the road against a defense that's still pretty good. A Tomlin team off of a loss, a Tomlin team with extra time to prepare, having not played since last Thursday. To me, the Jets are still right there in terms of one of the worst teams in the league. I like Pittsburgh here laying the points.
Which makes me have to ask you, if Joe Flacco was coming in here and not Zach Wilson, would you still have the same answer here? Would you have more trust in him than Zach Wilson?
I think it's a good question. I think Flacco is steadier where we kind of know what we're going to get, even if it's not great. You sort of get the same thing every week for him. He'll keep you in the game. He's not going to win it for you. Wilson, there's more upside because, look, he was the number 2 pick in the draft. He was awful last year. There's more of a higher ceiling, but there's a lower floor where you don't know if he's just going to throw the game away. So I think, Flacco's more stable. Wilson's more up and down. So there's more of an X factor here with Wilson. But I think it sort of cancels out. I don't think there'd be a huge difference in the line if Flacco versus Wilson was starting, which is an indictment. You pick a guy number 2 in the draft, and it doesn't even matter if he's starting according to the line. That's a tough look.
Yeah, definitely some more time under his belt is needed for him out here with the Jets. So I'm interested to see how he comes out and plays. For the Jets, lucky for them that TJ Watt isn't in the game, because otherwise Zach Wilson would be hitting the dirt a lot. We know that even with the defense they have right now, looking at a prop bet on defensive sacks might be a way to look at this one.
Yeah, or they have those props. Will there be a defensive score? I mean, with Trubisky, with Wilson, you could certainly see a sack, fumble, return for a touchdown, an interception for a touchdown. Minkah Fitzpatrick is healthy. So you could certainly see a defensive touchdown in this game.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky, we know he can throw those pick sixes for sure as well. So it's going to be a good one, you guys. That is at 1 o'clock Eastern, that one. We're going to jump ahead before we touch on the London game. We're going to go to the 425 matchup between the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. Now, this has a low total, but when I look at this, who's going to get the points here? Mac Jones is out for the Patriots. Brian Hoyer coming in. It looks like Aaron Rodgers not really connecting with his wide receivers. Green Bay, huge favorites here at home. Where are you going with this one, William?
I like the under. I think both teams will sort of have the same MO. I think the Patriots, they can only win this game one way. Run the ball, run it, and run it some more. Play good defense. Hope to keep it close. Hope to steal the game 17-13, maybe get a turnover. They're not an explosive team. They don't have a lot of weapons, so they're going to run the ball, run the clock. Meanwhile, Green Bay, they're okay with that, I think, because we saw in week 2 against a bad offense in Chicago. They got a big lead. They basically just handed off every snap the second half, relied on their defense, relied on their running game. Without Adams, they're not as explosive of an offense. So to me, this is like a 24-10, 20-13 sort of ugly game. I'm not going to touch the spread, but I do think this is an under. I think this is a very low-scoring game. I can't see the Patriots getting to like even 17 points, maybe a Patriots team total under, and I like the under for the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Great way to look at it for the Patriots team total under. I just struggle to see how the points are going to come on the board for them. So many players listed questionable for this game. The Packers, if they can start connecting, if Aaron Rodgers can find his key target, this could be one where they actually really have a very strong game that makes people start questioning why we ever question the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and if you look ahead to their schedule, remember, they were 0-1 against the Vikings, same thing as last year. Lots of questions about them. Well, now they're 2-1. They get a game here where they're big favorites. They get in the next few weeks the Jets, the Giants, the Commanders. Good chance here this Packers team is going to be 6-1.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's jump to that one in London. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New Orleans Saints. Wow, I don't even know what to think. Kirk Cousins, can he be bad in London? Has he played in London, William? That's what I was asking. I was trying to work out if he's been on that stage and if he's going to, fall on his face here. We know he did in prime time again. He really let us down, but the Vikings are 2-1 on the season.
Yeah, I think he played against Cincinnati when he was with Washington, which is a game I didn't remember. And he played okay in the game. This is a lesson to me in getting the best number, because I'm seeing a 3.5 here. At 3.5, I like the Saints. If we were talking a couple days ago when it was 2.5, I would have liked the Vikings. At 3, I would pass because I make this game 3. And I think a lot of newer bettors, recreational bettors fall into this pattern, this trap where they say, I like the Vikings or I like the Saints, and they don't really worry about the price. They're not price sensitive. To me, the price is everything. At 2.5, I would lay it with the Vikings. The Saints are all beat up here. Like I said, at 3, I would pass. At 3.5, I think you're at a point here where you're getting value with New Orleans. So I think it's an important note for newer bettors that these games are price sensitive. You don't want to just look at a team and say, I like them and I like them no matter what the number is. The number is very important here. To me, the number is everything. At 3.5, I think this is a field goal game. I will take the underdog.
Yeah, we've definitely seen this total decreasing, opening around 44. I'm seeing 41.5. The Saints have had so many turnover issues. At 3, I'm with you. I think the Vikings getting up over that 3, I think you've got to go with the New Orleans Saints and just pray they don't keep turning this ball over with fumble issues.
Yeah, and the Vikings are 2-1, but they could have easily lost that game to Detroit last week. They were not impressive Monday night, the week before against Philly. This could easily be a 1-2 team. Neither team has looked great. The Vikings have really struggled to defend in the secondary, guys running wide open all over the place. So with Olave, Kamara, even though Dalton's not great, he can still, get the ball out of his hands. To me, this is a down to the wire game here.
So I have to ask you, is there any games on the board that you're looking at is just complete stay away from you for you?
A complete stay away. Kansas City, Tampa's a tough one. That's a really tough one because Kansas City hasn't been ultra impressive. Brady and Mahomes have both been great as a dog, but the line keeps going back and forth between who's favored. This team by a point, the other team by a point. So Kansas City, Tampa, it's Mahomes, it's Brady, it's a Super Bowl rematch in the same venue as the Super Bowl a couple years ago. To me, it's a great game to watch. It's a fun game to watch, but that's not one where I have a great feel. So Kansas City, Tampa is probably one I'm not going to be too invested in.
Okay, and I know I wasn't planning to bring this one up, but I have to bring up the Denver Broncos versus the Las Vegas Raiders. We got divisional rivals here. The Raiders, unable to make a win so far this season, 0-3 on the season. The Broncos coming in here just not getting out of Russell Wilson what they expected coming into this season. Any thoughts at all, William, on this game?
Raiders better win. I know that. Yeah, it's funny. We came into this season a few weeks ago and the AFC West was this great all-time best division ever. And you look up, the Chargers are 1-2. They have a million injuries like we talked about. The Raiders are winless and Denver hasn't been ultra impressive. So things change quickly. Perceptions change quickly. I will just go with the Raiders here. I know they're 0-3. They could have won any of these three games. They gave away the Cardinals game. They were in the red zone all day against the Titans the other day, last Sunday. Even week 1 was a closer game against the Chargers. To me, the Chargers are at home. They're desperate. If you're 0-4, your season's over. I will take the Raiders here.
Yeah, this Raiders team, really, I cannot lose money on them again this week. I stayed off them in week 3, week 1 and 2. I expected them to come out, get those covers. I don't know. I'm shaking my head with the Raiders. This team has so much potential with Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. You look at Max Crosby. Their defense is solid. It's just not getting it done. Are you into betting first halves, first quarters, anything like that, William?
Yeah, I mean, if the situation calls for it, usually first half under, first quarter under. If you like an under in a game, I should have mentioned this with Packers Patriots. Sometimes a team gets way behind and they start throwing more than they should. That leads to pick sixes. That leads to some craziness at the end of games in terms of inflated scoring. So if you like a game first half, or if you like a game under, maybe the first half under is worth sprinkling some too.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is great. What about prop bets? How are you on the prop side of things? Are you putting out a lot over there at Beeson?
Yeah, the props are always fun. That's one of those things where I tail people more than anything. I don't really originate, but you can find some great value in that. Like Tua last night, coming into the game, we didn't know if he's going to be healthy or not. And again, not that you want to celebrate a win because of an injury, but that was one where, hey, he's banged up. I think his passing prop was 255.5 yards. So the under there. I like to play a lot of unders. I like to root against human achievement. I think sometimes people just want to root for overs, root for offense. Sometimes the unders are the way to play here.
Okay, William, you are the exact opposite of myself. Last night, I was sitting there and I was watching the San Francisco Colorado Rockies game, and I was rooting for the under. I was cheering every time someone missed a hit, and I hate being that person. I can't do it.
Yeah, especially in football, you're sitting there, you're rooting for the clock. You're just watching the clock the whole time. And when you have the under, you're just, hopefully hoping they punt, hoping they just run the ball, run the clock. So it's definitely, it's not one you watch, especially if you bet a basketball game or an NBA game under. Those are brutal because you can get so many points at the end of those games.
Absolutely. So what do you have going on this week for yourself?
Hits on VSiN all week, Lombardi line, a numbers game. Then Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, it is First and Gold on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/goldboys, breaking down all the NFL games for week 4. So should be a lot of fun. Check that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great weekend. Which ones of these games are making your TV? All of them?
Yeah, you're going to have to. You know what? I like that 702 channel on DirecTV where they put all 8 NFL games on at once. That's clutch because you can kind of pick and choose and see what's important and what's not.
And see, I'm not lucky enough up here in Canada to have that. I've got to have just multiple devices all going at once.
Of course.
Okay, William, anything else you have to say for yourself? Any basketball totals that you want to give out to these viewers before we head out here?
The Nuggets 49.5 seemed a little low. That's going to be a really good team with Murray back. Jokic, figure they get Porter back at some point. They have a really good home field advantage, home court advantage. Denver over 49.5 is a good one for me.
Yeah, definitely a great way to look at that with the Denver Nuggets. I was on with a guest earlier. They were thinking the Phoenix Suns under their win total. I don't know if I can go there with that. Any thoughts on the Phoenix Suns?
I would look under too. I think they sort of missed their window. They're up 2-0 in the finals a couple years ago, couldn't get it done. Then last year, what was a strange game 7 where they lose at home by 50 points in game 7 of the Mavericks. Now Ayton and the coach aren't speaking to one another. That's a tricky scenario here. Feels like Paul, who's older, Ayton, that whole scenario, they didn't get Durant. Feels like they missed their window. I could buy an under bet on the Suns for sure. It's a tough bet.
Man, see, again, we get to that point. I don't want to root for these teams not to have good games. It's hard for me as a person.
But hey, injuries work in your favor. When you have the under season wins, injuries work in your favor. How often do you hear people say, oh, I had the over this, over that, and then they got hurt? Well, that's part of the value on unders is injuries work in your favor. Injuries happen.
Absolutely. Well, William, it was a pleasure to have you here on Down to the Wire. Thank you so much. I hope to have you again.
All right, Joe. It was good to talk to you again. Nice to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Okay, guys, that was William Hill. Always a pleasure having him on the shows. I hope you guys took a lot away from what he was talking about. Go back if you're just jumping into the show right now. He gave out lots of free picks in the NFL for this weekend. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button for us. It really helps us out here. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. It's Friday and the weekend started. I'm excited. We will be having Greg Peterson in the next couple of minutes. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at BetMGM. I want you to kick off the pro football season with the king of sportsbooks. Sign up with BetMGM using bonus code VIBONUS. And your first wager is risk-free, up to $1,000. That's VI bonus, all one word, no spaces, and your first wager is risk-free, up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for all terms and conditions. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Okay, so you guys, we are going to move on to my second best bet of the night before Greg Peterson comes in after this. So the second one I'm looking at, we didn't talk with William about the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, this is going to be an interesting game, I want to say. Seattle, everyone thought after that first game out with Geno Smith that they were going to be fantastic this season. I'm not buying it. Geno Smith, yes, has been incredible. He has completed 77% of his passes for Seattle, but there's question marks on Goodwin. It doesn't look like he will play. They're only averaging still 15.7 points per game. They're allowing defensively 23.3. We have the Lions coming in here. Jared Goff is better than we have seen. They are putting up the points, this team. They're averaging 31.7 points per game. Defensively, they're just not getting there. Their defense is allowing 31 points per game. And now there's question marks as well. On the offensive side of the ball for the Detroit Lions, St. Brown will not be playing, the wide receiver, and DeAndre Swift won't be playing, the running back. So while I do think this is a great game for Detroit, I think the best way, instead of just taking them laying the points in case we get that backdoor cover, because we know Geno Smith can get that ball moving, I think taking the Detroit Lions team total over 28.5 is a great way to go. They've got a solid run game with their players out, St. Brown out. I think they will rely on Williams here to run this ball. I can see them getting over that 28.5. The defense for Seattle has been struggling, allowing that 23.3. So I think this is one of those games where the best way to take it, other than taking the Lions to cover the spread, is to take their team total over 28.5. But we're going to bring Greg Peterson into the show. Avisen. Greg, welcome to the show.
Great to be aboard, and I heard you talking about that Lions game, and I like it over as well, so we're on the same page there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. That is for sure. My question is, can Seattle put up enough points? That's why I'm looking at the Lions team total. I really hope it goes over. I hope it's an exciting one for all of us. Now,
Absolutely.
I think we got a little bit of a lag here, so I'll try not to talk over you, Greg. We're going to talk baseball. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's move into we're going to look at the last 4 games of the night, you guys, on the board so you can get some bets in here. We got the Chicago White Sox taking on the San Diego Padres. Greg, what are you liking in this? Padres, huge favorites with Hugh Darvish here tonight.
They are huge favorites, but with that said, I like the run line in this spot just because Hugh Darvish has been significantly better than he has been on the road. A 3.50 road ERA, but 2.45 ERA at home, and it feels like the Padres are able to get runs produced against, shall we say, lesser teams. And, well, the LA Dodgers, who they were playing against, that's the exact opposite of that. So they were having a little bit of a tough time scoring some runs a little bit earlier during the week, but I do think that they're going to be able to heat up against the Chicago White Sox team, which it's been very average in terms of bullpen. What I do like about Davis Martin, the starting pitcher of the White Sox, is that he's been able to do a solid job on the road. But if you take a look at Davis Martin, rookie for the White Sox, he's only been getting 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So he's not much of a swing and miss guy. Means that the ball is going to be in play quite a bit. And you've got quite a few guys for the Padres that we're going to call it what it is. They've been underachieving since they came over. Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Brandon Drury, all hitting a below a 250 for the Padres. But I do think that they're going to be able to do a good job getting to Davis Martin. The back half of the bullpen for the White Sox has not been too terrific. And you do have some trepidations with this Padres bullpen, which is why on a total of 7, I'm looking at it over. I think that there's a chance that you could get a push, but I much like this over rather than an under, just because I don't think that there's too many scenarios where the Padres score less than 4 runs in this game, because I think that they're going to get quite a bit generated. But I think that Yu Darvish does a nice job against a White Sox team that they put the ball in play, but they're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs per game. Now they're having to play at Petco Park, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. So I do like the Padres being able to cover this run line at right around even juice, minus 105, somewhere in that neighborhood, to go along with a 7 over.
Yeah, great way to take that game, not paying a lot of juice there. We have the Oakland A's taking on the Seattle Mariners. Another one coming in as a large favorite here. Logan Gilbert starting for the Seattle Mariners. We got a total sitting pretty solid at 7. Where are you going with this one? Can the Seattle Mariners cover the run line as well?
I think that the Mariners have a good shot of being able to cover this run line because Logan Gilbert has been white hot. He had a bad start his last time out, but prior to that, he had given up 1 earned run in his previous 4 starts, so he's been able to do a nice job on that front. And Kevin Waldichuk, he has been giving up runs, which is why this is another total of 7 that I will be taking a look at on the over, just because I think that we're getting down a little bit too low with these totals. And keep in mind, Eugenio Suarez, the star hitter for the Seattle Mariners, he's back in the fold. He went deep yesterday, so that was a very good sign. If I were to take a look at the Oakland A's, I'd be needing to get more like a plus 215. In most books, we just have not gotten there. I just wound up settling on the run line myself just because we're waiting for the Oakland A's, and perhaps it gets there, but I still think that there's a much better likelihood that the Seattle Mariners cover the run line, because this is a game which the Seattle Mariners, they want so badly, because keep in mind, the Seattle Mariners have not been to the postseason since 2001. That's Ichiro Suzuki's rookie year. They want to close this thing out if at all humanly possible. And then you've got that Seattle Mariners bullpen with guys like Paul Sewell, Penn Murphy. You've got Andres Munoz in the fold, all posting up a sub-3 ERA. Really, other than that terrible 9-run blown lead against the Kansas City Royals, they've been rock solid all year long. I expect the same for them. I do think that they're going to get to Waldichuk, who's had north of 5 ERA, has really had his struggles giving up the deep ball. With Suarez back in the fold, I like the Mariners on the run line along with the 7 over.
Yeah, it has to make you question how much the Oakland A's really want to play spoiler here. If they can get it done, I don't think they have enough drive to get the win here. At plus 200, it looks tempting, but I'm not touching it. No. Let's move on to the next game. We have Arizona taking on San Francisco. San Francisco last night really shot my bet in the foot, allowing the Colorado Rockies to get those runs in the top of the ninth. I was on the under. We got Alex Cobb starting for the Giants tonight versus Myrtle Kelly here for Arizona. What are you liking in this one, Greg?
It's just a day of low totals in general. I mean, this is the third straight game in which we've had a 7, and that makes sense because these West Coast ballparks, they're much more pitcher friendly than the East Coast ballparks. I always think that that is important to note because when it comes to these West Coast ballparks, the air is a little bit heavier during the nighttime, which is why you are typically going to see lower totals. But that said, I set the Giants at a minus 128, and I'm finding this between minus 125 and minus 130. This is one where it's getting to the max I'd be willing to lay on the Giants. I took this a little bit earlier in the day at a little bit more of a palatable number, but if you're looking to dive in right now, I still think that there's a little bit of value on the Giants, but what I do like a little bit more is the over, just because you've got an Arizona Diamondbacks team that they've hit significantly better on the road than at home. 0.85 home runs per game when they're at home, 1.35 home runs per game on the road, which I'm not necessarily sure how or why Arizona's been playing very pitcher friendly the last few years, and Christian Walker has done a lot of his damage when he's been on the road. But the reason why I do like the Giants up to a minus 128 is that the bullpen has been significantly better for them. They really struggled without Buster Posey towards the beginning part of the season. Seems like they're finding guys that they're able to rely upon. Now, Jarlin Garcia is going to be on the injured list. He's out for this one, but got guys like a Camilo Duvall, Alex Young, John Brebbia posting up a sub-3 ERA. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks over the last 45 days, north of a 5.5 ERA. If Joe Mantiply is not coming into the game behind Merrill Kelly, you've got nobody that's trustworthy right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I do like the way that Merrill Kelly has been rolling recently. A sub-3.2 ERA overall for the season. Not too much of a swing and miss guy. And the Giants, they do a great job in terms of their righty-lefty platoon splits. And with Alex Cobb, he has been amazing at home, posting up a sub-2.5 ERA. So I do like the Giants in the spot. And once again, 7, I think, is a little bit too low. We've seen a lot of unders the last 60 days in baseball. As a matter of fact, right around 52.3% of games to the under. So I think that bookmakers have shaded these totals down maybe a little bit too far, as I'm on another over in this spot.
3 overs in a row. That's what I like to root for. I love watching a game when I got the over. The Colorado Rockies are taking on the LA Dodgers, last game of the night. This is at 10:10 Eastern. Dodgers, huge favorites. Is this a letdown spot for them? Could Colorado come out and get a win?
I don't know if it's necessarily a letdown spot. It's just a number that has gotten too far away from you. I'm seeing this at minus $4 right now. And if you have laid the money line on all these favorites that have been minus 300 or greater, if you're one of those bettors that, let's say in this spot, it's minus 400. So you lay 400 to win 100. You're down over $1,500 if you've taken all these big favorites. They have been the least profitable bet in all of baseball this season. If you really like the Dodgers, you want to be taking a look at some sort of a different market, like Clayton Kershaw to record a win. You're able to reduce the juice there. The Dodgers have been terrific on the run line. All but 14 of their wins have been by multiple runs. So that's something that you're able to take a look at. I'm going to plug my nose. I'm going to be taking the Mondo plus number with the Colorado Rockies because the Dodgers haven't even necessarily been too terrific in Clayton Kershaw's most recent starts. They are 9-7 in his last 16. And if you're laying north of minus $2 on all these starts, you're down quite a bit of money. The LA Dodgers might be resting a guy or two towards back half of this game as well because they've got everything signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm sort of noticing that the Dodgers, they're sort of taking turns. One night, like Freddie Freeman is going to be out of the lineup. The next night, Trey Turner. So they're trying to get right, getting into the postseason. Colorado doesn't necessarily have the world's most redeeming qualities in the world. Chad Kuhl, he has given up 3+ runs in 11 out of his last 12 starts. Guess who that one outlier was against, though? You guessed it, the LA Dodgers. I do think that this is certainly a number which the Colorado Rockies should be a sizable underdog on. I just think we went a little bit too far. I'm going to be playing the number. I'm taking north of $3 with the Colorado Rockies in this spot just because it's gotten up a little bit too high.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw this line. I just shook my head. Can't lay minus 400 with anyone. What is the highest you'll take a money line?
I typically like to go up to about like a minus 150. There are rare circumstances. Like during the postseason, I'll go above a minus 150. I recall last year you had a great pitching matchup between Charlie Morton and Corbin Burns in that Braves versus Brewers series. I was one to lay more like a minus 170, minus 175 on Corbin Burns because I felt like the Brewers were really going to win that game. I didn't feel like they were going to do it by multiple runs. The run line was still very, very chalky on the other side for the Atlanta Braves as well. So I was willing to take the money line there. Typically, when it comes to regular season baseball, I'm only willing to go up to about a minus 150 or so, though I will be willing to go a little bit higher during the postseason just because we do see significantly more one-run games when it comes to October baseball.
Yeah, scary for anyone that has a parlay with all of these favorites tonight. We know a dog is going to get the win there, so you guys be careful if you're betting high money line games. Greg, it was awesome to have you here. It feels like we haven't talked forever. I want to thank you so much for joining me on Down to the Wire.
Absolutely. Anytime, Joe. Always do appreciate it.
Thank you. Where can people find you on socials?
At @GUnit_81 on Twitter and Instagram. I post up everything there. 2 daily podcasts, one involving baseball called The Baseball Betting Show, Coast to Coast Hoops. You're able to catch that every single day throughout the year, talking about college basketball. And then on VSiN, midnight to 3 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, doing the show, The Greg Peterson Experience.
Thank you, Greg. It was an absolute pleasure. Have a good one.
Always appreciate it, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we are wrapping up our show. It's time for today's Handicapper Heat Check presented by VegasInsider.com, your home of the best expert picks in the business since 1997. Today, we are going to recognize Chip Chirimbus, who can be found on Twitter at Chip Chirimbus. Chip has hit 7 straight college football winners, bringing his season record to 20-8. That's 71%. You guys make sure you go check him out. For YouTube, you can save $10 on any of Chip's college football packages by visiting the link in the description below. The $10 discount will be applied during checkout, so make sure you go right below this video now and check that out. If you are listening in the podcast version, visit Vegas Insider Expert Picks page to take advantage of Chip's hot streak, or click on Chip's promo on the Vegas Insider homepage. That's your Handicapper Heat Check. Stay hot, bettors. Okay, guys, recap of my bets. Then we're done. It's Friday. I hope you guys are having an absolutely incredible evening. I want to thank you for joining me here again on Down to the Wire on the Vegas Insider Network, presented by BetMGM. My best bets for the show: the Toronto Blue Jays team total over 4.5. And I'm also going to look at the Detroit Lions team total for Sunday over 28.5. Make sure you go shop those lines. Go get them over at BetMGM. You don't want to miss out. Now, you guys, happy Friday. Enjoy it. I'll see you back here next Wednesday. You can catch Down to the Wire Monday to Friday from 6 to 7 Eastern. I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I'm Joe Madden, and on behalf of myself and everyone at Vegas Insider, have a fantastic weekend. Keep smiling, and let's make some frickin' money.